What is up guys, Andy Forest the Runner here, and today we're talking all about the HOKA One One MACH 4 after 200 miles. So there we go, this week's run took us up and over the 200 mile mark in the HOKA One One MACH 4, 210 miles to be exact, and I'm delighted to be bringing you guys another long-term review. So for those of you who are relatively new to the channel, just to clarify, back tail end of last year, I kind of decided that I was testing so many shoes, and I just felt like so many of them had so much more life after 100 miles. 100 miles is such a great number to review a shoe at, but it's got so much more life left in it. I found with the Brooks Hyperion Tempo that the shoe came to life after 100 miles and became an absolute stalwart during my marathon training. So I tend to go through the year now, and although I can't take every single shoe up and above 100 miles because I am testing a fair few, I do want to earmark some of them to go up and above that realm, and that is exactly what has happened with the MACH 4. And there was a reason that I wanted to do with this, and that is because I've never really had great success with longevity in HOKA shoes. I often find that EVA compresses and they end up, especially with the Rincons, they end up just bottoming out after a short amount of time. So I'm excited to deliver an update on this shoe after 200 miles, another shoe that has just slotted into the rotation, soaking up the miles week in, week out. And as always with these long-term reviews, we'll talk all about the wear and tear, how I've been using them, and will I continue to use them moving forwards. So if you're excited for today's video guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and we'll kickstart with the wear and tear. So my standard line or standard phrase I usually say after 100 miles is at that point you don't want to see any significant wear and tear on a shoe. Now in my opinion 100 miles is very young for a shoe, and realistically, I'm going to say it, I kind of think the same around the 200 mile mark. I think you start to see some real proper signs of wear and tear around the 253 to 400 mile mark. There are obviously some shoes that are built like tanks, but shoes like this which are a little bit more disposable, shall we say, that maybe last around the 300-400 mile mark, you might start to see some earlier signs. But I'm delighted to say again in this shoe, bar the outsole, which we'll come to shortly, that the upper and everything else on the shoe bar the outsole is holding up really, really well. It's obviously very dirty, it's having a good lot of use, but the upper has no snags, no tears, no holes, absolutely nothing. So yeah, it's not its original colour, but it's had a good fair beating on the trails, on the roads. It's getting dusty out there, and it's just holding up really, really well. Now, the one thing that a lot of you guys, if you've run in the MACH 4 and you love it, will agree with me on is the fit in this shoe is absolutely second to none. The fit across the upper, around the midfoot, everything about this shoe, when you put your foot in, is great, and it hasn't lost any of that, which is brilliant. I sometimes find as shoes get older, you're pulling the laces more, some of the fabric gets a little bit more lax and you can't quite get that same lockdown, things get a bit looser. That's not happened in this shoe, so I'm still feeling like I'm getting bang for my buck in terms of the fit on this shoe. And surprisingly, and I will say surprisingly because obviously my experiences with shorter lifespans in HOKAs has been the Rincon, but the midsole is holding up okay. It's not what it was. I'm going to be straight up and honest. It's not quite as good as it was, but it's certainly not bottomed out. It's certainly not flat, and it's certainly got more life left in it. And I think that's going to be down to the combination of the ProFly, which is the top layer of midsole, this darker yellow, and then the standard EVA rubber outsole, which is the bottom. I think the combination of the two is kind of adding a little bit of durability factor. With something like the Rincon, where you're just running on the EVA, that compresses very quickly, and once that's gone, it's game over. I kind of feel like the ProFly is holding things together at the moment, which is great. If we move on to the outsole, however, we certainly do look like we have chewed up this shoe more than 200 miles. And just bear in mind, Hokas do have this habit of chewing up the outsoles. Cliftons, Rincons, Mach 4s. I haven't explored any of the other range of road shoes, but anything that has exposed EVA on the outsole or rubber outsole, lack of rubber outsole, does tend to chew up quite bad. It looks worse than it is. It's really not that bad, but as you can see in and around this forefoot area, it really does look like it's gone through the walls. And then of course down on the outside of the heel, where I sometimes get lazy, my hips sit in and I start to heel strike a bit towards the end of a workout going downhill, I've got some significant wear there, but the majority of it is in and around this midfoot area, and as you can see, it is rather worn down, but it's not affecting grip, it's not affecting anything, it's not affecting the performance, I'm delighted to say. And yeah, I'm really surprised at how well this thing is holding up so far. So moving on to how have I been using this shoe during the last 100 miles. So the last update you had was after 100 miles, and obviously we've now done another 110 miles. And in that first 100 miles, I was doing a lot of experimenting with the shoe. I started to hone in on the fact that this was going to be a good easy pace and moderate pace shoe. I did some workouts, I did a variety of stuff in that first 100 miles, but I really fathomed out that that wasn't its forte. And so for the last 100 miles, from 100 to 210, this thing has been slotting into my weekly rotation once or twice a week, whether that's a Monday moderate run or a Friday easy run. And that's really where this thing has highlighted itself to me. That's where I've been using it, and I've found it to be really, really effective in my rotation. It's a shoe that I love running moderate in it. It's nice and light. It's not poppy. It's not a poppy shoe, but I do seem to move very well in it. And on an easy day when my legs are quite tired and heavy and I'm not feeling like I want to put a plodding shoe on, then this is exactly what I opt for. Now, considering I run 5 days a week on single days, no double runs, the fact that this thing is getting a run every week, if not twice a week at the moment, it means it's my most used shoe, and I'm still really, really enjoying it. I have used it on a few workouts. In fact, this week taking it over the 200 mile mark was indeed a workout. Again, it was average to good. There was nothing spectacular about it. I just fancied using it on a workout. I've got better shoes in the rotation, but I thought, do you know what, to get it over this 200 mile mark, we'll refresh our memory and we'll get an interval workout done in it. And as I said, it was average to good, nothing spectacular. So definitely for me, it sat really, really nicely in that easy to moderate category. And so will I continue to use this shoe moving forwards? The final question, will I continue to use it? And the answer is going to be yes, I will continue to be using this shoe. It's going to take a little bit of a backseat. It's probably still going to get one run in a week, but definitely not two, because I have other shoes now in for testing that I now need to ramp the mileage up in. But there's no reason for me to stop running in it. I'm still really enjoying it. It's still got life left in it, and I'm now really intrigued as to when this thing is going to start to feel like it's losing its life. I have a suspicion it's going to be between the 300 to 400 mile mark. As I said earlier, it feels good still, but it doesn't feel like its original state. It does feel like it's flattened a bit, but nothing horrific. And I feel that's going to continue to follow that trend, probably up into the 300 to 400 mile mark. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably going to have more miles in this shoe, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, how many miles you have got in it. Have you had to retire it, or are you still going? Is the shoe still going strong? But for me, in my head, there's 100% no reason why I will put this shoe down. I'm really enjoying it. It is 100% the James Milner of running shoes. For those of you who follow football, you know exactly what I mean. Nothing special, nothing fancy, but you pop him in a team and he will get the job done. And that's exactly the same with this. You pop this in your rotation and it will soak up the miles enjoyably. And that's key. It's a sport that we love to enjoy. So for me, to be able to pop this on brings a smile to my face, and I enjoy every step that I run in it. So we'll be continuing to use this shoe and take it well up and over the 210 mile mark. So there we go, that's my review of the HOKA One Mach 4 after 200 miles, 210 miles. I'm delighted that we've got the shoe up and over that point, and I really am now keen, as I said, to take it further. Now I know I've already asked you the question of how many miles you've got in your Mach 4s and how they're holding up. I would also love to know, what shoe have you got really attached to this year? I've kind of made a real attachment to this thing. I've really enjoyed it. What's really grabbed your heart and you love running in, that puts a smile on your face like this shoe does for me when you go out there and run in it? What is that shoe? I would love to know. And how is it holding up after however many miles you've put in it? It's just such a great thing when you find a shoe that really works for you in your rotation. The Hyperion Tempo was my shoe during my marathon training, and I have to say at the start of this half marathon training block, this shoe has really grabbed my attention. So there we go, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, really appreciate it. If you enjoyed today's video, guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always, I'll see you on the next one. Until then.